Jacob comes home from work and finds out that his girlfriend Stella is missing. She never cooks, but she left this weird recipe on the table. Can you figure out where Stella is? These fractions imply the number of letters that we should take from each word on the list. L from the lettuce, O, N from the onion, D, O from the donut, and so on. And this way, we'll get the word London. So Jacob should look for his girlfriend in London. Jacob hits the road and goes to the airport, but unfortunately the main road is closed for repairs. He can only take one of these 3 routes instead. Can you help Jacob make the right choice? Only the 3rd route leads to the final destination. Jacob checks in for a flight, and he still has to check out the local boutiques. There's an imposter among these mannequins. Can you spot him? This one. His eyes are blinking.
Hey!
It's boarding time. Jacob walks down the airport and spots 4 odd things about this place. Can you see them too? One of the planes is parked vertically. This trash bin is moving on its own. The gate numbering has mirrored digits, and the vending machine is selling raw vegetables. Jacob is ready to take his seat. Suddenly, he faces a mysterious stewardess. She offers him a deal.
Sir, I have 3 boxes for you. If you pick the right one, the entire first class will be yours. If not, you'll be removed from the flight.
Can you figure out which box Jacob should choose? Let's take a closer look at the food emojis printed on the boxes. If we write out the first letters of each ingredient, we'll get false, right, and wrong. So Jacob should pick the second box. Jacob lands in London and goes to the city by train. Can you find 3 zombies in this car? Hello? Jacob checks into a hotel. There's a fancy wedding party going on in the hotel restaurant, but one of these people is not from this planet. Can you guess who? It's the bride. She has 3 hands. Jacob receives an invitation from his girlfriend's kidnapper. Come over and you'll see Stella. Jacob arrives at the meeting point and sees 4 doors. A creepy voice announces,
Your girlfriend is behind one of these doors. If you pick the right door, you're free to go. But if you make the wrong choice, you'll be trapped forever.
Which door should Jacob choose? Each door has a line of symbols. If we take the first letter of each symbol, we can arrange 4 female names: Stella, Alice, Miranda, and Bianca. So, Jacob should pick the first door to rescue his girlfriend. Jacob takes Stella to the hotel and goes outside to get some coffee. Oh no, zombies are everywhere! Jacob and a couple of other hotel guests hide in a royal suite. He goes to the kitchen to check the food supply. Suddenly, Jacob hears someone screaming and runs to the living room. He sees a zombie who has already bitten one of the guests. Jacob locks the zombie in the bathroom, and now he has to figure out who's infected. Jacob questions all of them. Stella says,
I was sitting in the closet, and suddenly a zombie ran into the room.
Peter says, I smeared myself with garlic to make the zombies stay away. And Elon says, I protected myself with a tennis racket. I carried it with me all day. That's why zombies didn't bite me. Who's lying? Peter, garlic protects from vampires, not zombies.
Hey!
Jacob and Stella return home safely. After a while, they decide to open a spa hotel outside the city. In the very first days, someone robs them and steals the most expensive beauty products. Jacob looks through the camera footage. He sees a masked person putting things from the storage into a bag and taking them away. Jacob knows for sure that the thief is among his employees, so he questions them. A massage therapist says,
Yesterday, I went home early because my husband got sick. I returned in the morning to work.
The manager says,
I didn't sleep all night because one demanding visitor constantly complained. I was solving his problems.
And the nail artist says,
I had to wake up last night to do an emergency manicure for my client. She's having an important event early this morning.
Can you spot the thief? It was the nail artist. Her sweater looks exactly the same as the thief's outfit in the camera footage, but she put on an apron on top. The next day, a weird thunderstorm happened in the area of the spa center. Some people received superpowers after looking at the lightning. Jacob decides to find all the superheroes to protect the other people from possible threats. Can you help him spot a superhero in this storage room? This guy's arm is too long. Can you see any superheroes in the lounge area? This cleaning lady is flying without any ropes. Jacob decides to visit the local pool. He leaves his clothes and backpack in a locker in the dressing room and goes swimming. After a while, Jacob returns. Oh no, someone broke the lock and stole his clothes. He decides to question 3 guys standing nearby. Elon says,
I spent the last 30 minutes on an exercise bike, and now I'm headed to the shower. I didn't notice anything suspicious.
Andrew says, I entered the dressing room a second ago. Your locker was already open. And Olaf says, I was washing my hair in the shower after the sauna, and I didn't hear anything at all. Who's lying? Olaf. If he's just washed his hair, why is it so dry? Jacob receives an emergency call from his manager. One of the guests is not from this planet. Can you spot who? This lady over here. Her skin tone is as green as her facial mask. Another mystery has occurred in the ladies' dressing room. Jessica complains to Jacob that someone has stolen her smartwatch. Jacob finds 3 suspects and questions them. Leah says,
I was on the phone with my manager. I receive a 6-0 paycheck every month. Why would I need to steal gadgets?
Melissa says, I've spent the last 2 hours in the sauna. I don't know what happened here. And Shannon says, I took a shower and then focused on my makeup. Sorry I didn't pay attention to the other guests. Who's lying? Melissa, take a look at the safety sign at the sauna entrance. It's forbidden to stay inside longer than 20 minutes. But according to Melissa's story, she spent 2 hours there. Liar! Jacob is heading to the parking lot, but the back door of the spa center is locked. Someone changed the 7-digit code. Can you guess the code to help Jacob open this door? There's a hint on the door. Each color corresponds with a particular number. Yellow implies 5, orange 2, red 6. So the last number of the code is 6. Stella has just purchased a fancy body lotion. She begins to test it, but something goes wrong. Stella is turning into a toad. Fortunately, she manages to call Jacob and tell him everything before it's too late. Jacob rushes to his witch buddy and gets a potion to turn Stella back into a human. But when he comes home, he sees not 1, but 7 toads. He has to figure out which one of these toads is Stella. Jacob finds a note, and here's what we know for sure. The correct toad isn't green, but it's next to a green one, and it's not next to the last toad in line. Can you find Stella? First of all, we can exclude all the green toads, and now we have 4 options left. The 7th toad is not next to the green one, so let's get rid of it too. Options 2 and 6 can also be excluded because they're both next to the last toads in line. So, Stella is the 4th toad.
Okay, get ready for the ultimate attention test. Every smallest detail might turn out to be crucial. Let's find out how sharp your eyes really are. Look at these glasses. They're filled with water, and each of them has some object inside. Can you tell me which glass has the largest amount of water? If we compare the weight of these objects, we'll find out that the paperclip is the lightest. That's why the glass holding it has the largest amount of water. Among all these cute babies, try to find a sleeping one. Right, here it is. Wow, that was tricky. Bunnies, bunnies, bunnies. But I know for sure there must be an egg hiding among these cute creatures. Exactly. It's not another ear, it's indeed an egg. Look at these unusual equations. Can you figure out the values of the bee, wasp, and rabbit? The wasp is worth 10, the bee is 12, and the rabbit is worth 6. Now, to crack this riddle, you need to use all your attention skills. Mike was going to take his corgi to the vet, but the pooch has run away and hidden in the garden. Can you find it? Wow, that was a tricky task. Here it is, poor scared pup. A lot is happening in this picture, but you just need to spot one thing, a banana. A little hint, it might be hiding in a very unexpected place. This girl is wearing it as a hairband. Did you manage to spot it? Peter needs to take his dog for a walk, but it's raining outside and the pooch doesn't seem eager to leave this cozy living room. Can you help the guy find his pup? Here it is, near the sofa. It looks like a regular living room, but happiness is hiding here. How fast can you spot it? Here it is. Bingo! Liz followed her mom's order and went to bed without objections. But her mom suspects that her daughter hasn't brushed her teeth. If you manage to find a toothbrush in the girl's bedroom, her mother's suspicions are correct. The toothbrush is hidden on that shelf. Uh-oh, someone is going to be in trouble tomorrow. Despite cold winter weather, Mark set off on a photo trip. His main goal was to capture a bear on film. Unfortunately, Mark isn't very attentive. A bear is watching him, but he doesn't notice the animal. Let's see if you'll be able to help the guy and find a bear in this image. Right, here it is. What a curious creature. Look at this image. How many triangles can you see? There are 44 triangles here. Have you got it right? What seems to be odd in this picture? It's definitely the McDonald's sign, but isn't it too early for it? How good are you at math? We'll see in a moment. If A plus A equals B, B plus B equals D, A plus D equals E, then how much is B plus D plus E? It's the letter K, which equals 11. All these letters represent their positions in the alphabet: A1, B2, C3, D4, and E5. 2 plus 4 plus 5 equal 11, and that's the letter K. Now, look attentively. Can you find a car in this black and white image? There it is, hiding in the corner. Now, this one is probably the trickiest riddle out there. I've spent ages trying to figure out the answer. Can you find a ring in this image? Here it is, placed on top of a carrot. Whew! Can you find the answer to this equation? The answer is 3. See for yourself. A cat equals 4, a mouse is 3, and cheese is worth 2. Then, 4 minus 3 plus 2 is 3. Take a look at these creatures. They all seem to be zombies. But in reality, just one of them is the real monster. Can you figure out which one? It's the girl on the right. She has an eye floating in her drink. Can you spot a werewolf among these men? Be very attentive to every detail. I hope you've noticed that large, beautiful full moon shining through the window. Then you must have deduced that none of these men is a werewolf. Otherwise, he would have already transformed. Your friend has invited you for a walk in the park. She offered you 3 places to choose from. Which one should you pick? A wolf is hiding in the bushes in the first park. In park number 3, there is a snake in the grass. Only the second park is safe for a nice long walk. Can you find 5 hearts in this image? Here they all are. How many of them have you managed to spot? There are 4 mistakes in this image. Can you find them all? 1. The dolphin seems to be missing its flippers. 2. This thing on the girl's back doesn't look like an oxygen tank. 3. A butterfly at the bottom of the sea. 4. Someone has written SOS on the sandy bottom. I guess it's pretty much useless. No one is going to see this cry for help anyway. Larry's mother asked the guy to do some grocery shopping. She gave him a shopping list and her bank card. But the woman knew her son was very absent-minded. That's why she gave Larry a small note in case he forgot the card's PIN number. When the guy was at the register, he realized he had indeed forgotten the PIN. Larry pulled the note out of his pocket and immediately remembered the PIN. Can you figure out what it was if the note had a fly, a cat, a person, and a snake drawn on it? The PIN was 6420. Larry just had to count the number of legs on each creature. Thomas loved asking his friends to solve all kinds of funny riddles. If they answered correctly, he helped them with whatever they had problems with. One day, Daniel came to Thomas and asked for help with his math exam. He knew the rules, though. He had to solve one riddle first. What kind of running leads to walking? Thomas asked. Do you know the correct answer? Daniel said, running out of gas, and he was right. But helping your friend with exam preparation is a difficult task. That's why Thomas asked Daniel to solve one more riddle. A woman drove from Seattle to Los Angeles. It took her 2 days to get to her destination. That's when she discovered one of her tires was punctured. Then how did she manage to get to Los Angeles? Daniel cracked this riddle. Can you do the same? The punctured tire was the spare one. Ooh, that was lucky. Detective Oliver Smith was leaving for work in the morning when he saw a man running out of his neighbor's house. He stopped the guy who said his name was Paul. He came to visit his colleague about 30 minutes ago and saw him fighting with a man. The door was locked and Paul couldn't get inside to help. While he was trying to find the way to enter the house, the criminal left. Paul entered and saw his colleague lying on the kitchen floor, unconscious. Oliver and Paul came into the house. Nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary, but after looking around the kitchen, the detective arrested the man. Why? Paul was the one to attack Oliver's neighbor. If his words were true, fried eggs would have already been burned after 30 minutes of cooking. Detective Parkson was working on a tricky case. One day, he vanished. His colleagues found an encrypted note on his desk. It looked like this. The officers knew Parkson had 3 suspects: Milana, Susan, and Emily. Who had some information about the detective's disappearance? After some time, one of the police officers cracked the code. D plus 1 equals E, L plus 1 equals M, and so on. It was Emily who knew where the detective was. Well, aren't you the smarty pants? Good work.
Yeah.
Hey, Sherlock. Yes, you. Have you had your morning cup of coffee yet? Then put on your detective hat. It's time to work.
Yeah.
In 2 years, this dog is going to be twice as old as it was 5 years ago. How old is the dog at the moment? The pooch is 12 years old. Look at this picture. How many squares can you find here? There are 11 squares in this picture. Kudos if you found all of them. Mia is 3 times older than Anna. 3 years ago, Anna was a year younger than Amelia is now. Olivia is twice as old as Anna. Put the girls in order of their age. It goes like this: Mia, Olivia, Anna, and Amelia. David got lost in a jungle. After wandering for hours, he came to a place where the path split into 3 smaller trails. The first one led to an active volcano with red-hot lava bubbling in its crater. If David chose the second path, he would get to a clearing swarming with venomous bats. And the third path ended in a swamp, swallowing everything and everybody that got there. Where should he go? David should choose the second path. Most bats are only active at night. Plus, they almost never attack humans. A deaf man came to a store to pick up the flowers he had ordered for his wife. How did he explain to the shop assistant what he needed? He just said so. He was deaf, not mute. Here's a joke to lighten the mood. Don't take it too seriously. Why do elephants have wrinkles? No one is brave enough to iron them. Now, let's check how attentive you are. Your task is to figure out which vampire is the real one. The first vampire has a reflection. The second one doesn't have fangs. Only the third one is the real vampire. How about these mummies? Which one is real? The first one is the real mummy. The second one is just wearing a costume. See that zipper? And the third mummy has blue eyes. Now, you need to guess which of them is the ghost bride. Have you noticed that the first one is sweating? The third bride is just wearing a costume, but the second one is the real ghost. She's slightly transparent. Which of these ladies is the real mermaid? The first one is the real mermaid, the second girl has a zipper on the tail, and the third one is hiding a snorkeling mask behind her back. Your next task is to guess which of them is the real Leatherface. The first one has a saw with a label from a toy store. The second one has a can of red spray paint in his apron pocket. But the third one seems to be real. Which of these creatures is the real zombie? The first one is the real thing. The second one has a sandwich in his pocket. See? And the third one might have caught a cold. He has a runny nose. Try to guess who the real Slender Man is. The first one has a very realistic mask on his face, but we can still see a gap between the mask and his body. The third one has lost one of his gloves with long artificial fingers, but the second one is the real Slender Man. Which of these creatures is the real orc? The first one is the real orc, the second one doesn't have fangs, and the third one has a different skin tone on his face and body, so he must be wearing a mask. Physicists have built devices to move it very fast. The last 7 letters of its name can usually be found in newspapers, magazines, and journals. Can you figure out what I'm talking about? A particle. There are 3 playing cards in a row. You've got the following clues. There is a 2 to the right of a king. A diamond can be found to the left of a spade. An ace is to the left of a heart. A heart is to the left of a spade. Now, try to identify all 3 cards. The cards are the Ace of Diamonds, King of Hearts, and 2 of Spades. Lewis and his friend Mark were playing basketball. Suddenly, the ball landed in the garden of Lewis's neighbor, a very unfriendly gentleman. An even more unfriendly dog was guarding that garden. Luckily, it was tied to a tree, but the ball fell too close to that tree. If the dog spotted Lewis, it would follow the guy's every step. And if the guy came close enough, he would get bitten. How can Lewis get his ball back without getting hurt in the process? Lewis should walk around the tree, staying out of that dog's reach. The dog will keep following him until the entire length of the animal's leash is wrapped around the tree. Then Lewis should grab his ball and run away. The son of the dentist's father is talking to the father of the dentist's son, and the dentist isn't taking part in the discussion. Can you figure out these family ties? The dentist is a woman, and the people who are talking are her husband and her brother. Ice will melt if you heat it, but if you heat me, I'll become solid. What am I? I'm an egg. You buy this thing to eat, but you never eat it. What is it? It's a plate. James left a folder with important documents on the table in his home office and went to a business meeting. When he returned, he found out that the documents had disappeared. James had 3 suspects. His brother said, "I've been swimming in the pool since you left. I haven't seen or heard anything." The cook replied, "Tomorrow we're having a party, and I've been preparing the food." The security guard told James, "Hey, I've been outside all this time, checking the garden for mice. Who knows where the documents are?" It's the security guard. I bet his job description doesn't include pest control. Maria won the lottery and returned home with a large sum of money, but her sister called her and asked for help, so the girl had to rush out. Before leaving, she put the money under the carpet in her bedroom. When she came back, the money wasn't there. There were 3 people in her apartment while she was away. An electrician came to fix her AC. A neighbor visited to pick up some books, and Maria's housekeeper was cleaning the apartment. Who took the money? It was the housekeeper. She was the only person who had any reason to check under the carpet. You're trapped in a huge deserted mansion. far away from civilization. The windows are either boarded up or too high above the ground. The only tree that grows close enough to touch is too thin to hold you. The entrance door is also securely locked. You see 3 doors. All of them lead to freedom, but behind the first door, there's a raging fire. The second door hides hundreds of venomous scorpions, and behind the third door, there's a dark maze filled with different traps. What should you do? Break off a tree branch and light it in the first room. Now you have a torch. Escape through the maze that isn't dark anymore. You're locked in a room with 3 doors. You can safely walk through any of them, but the doorknobs are the real problem. The first one is under high voltage and you won't survive touching it. The second is covered with dangerous poison. You can't let it get on your skin. And the third doorknob is so hot that it'll make your hand burn. Which doorknob should you try? The second one. You can take off any piece of clothing and use it to open the door. This way, you won't have to touch the doorknob with your hand. I've heard you've got some impressive analytical skills and a sharp mind. Then you're just the person I need. Help me solve these tricky riddles and prove you're worthy of that detective title. A Japanese ship had left the port and was on its way to the open sea. The captain went to apply oil to some parts of the vessel and took his wedding ring off so it wouldn't get damaged. He left it on the table in his cabin. When he returned, the ring was gone. The man figured out that 3 crew members could be guilty. So he asked each of them what they had been doing for the past 10 minutes. The cook said, "I was in the kitchen preparing tonight's dinner." The engineer answered, "I was working in the engine room making sure everything was running smoothly." And the seaman said, "I was on the mast correcting the flag because someone had hung it upside down by mistake." The captain immediately knew who the thief was. How did he understand it? It was clearly the seaman. It was a Japanese ship, and the Japanese flag is white with a single red dot in the middle. It can't be hung upside down. Cheryl was reading a book, but she was careless and accidentally tore out pages 7, 8, 100, 101, 133, and 334. How many pages will she have to fix? Just 4. 7 and 8, as well as 333 and 334, are just different sides of one page. A folder with extremely important documents disappeared from Detective Brown's office. At the time of the theft, there were only 4 other people in the office: Bill, Tom, Harry, and Mike. Brown interrogated them, and they gave the following statements. Bill said, "Tom did it." Tom denied this claim. Bill did it. Harry said, "Tom's telling the truth." And Mike confirmed, "Harry's not lying." After analyzing these statements, Detective Brown found out that only one person was telling the truth, and the rest were lying. Can you determine the thief? Tom is the thief, and Bill tells the truth. If Bill was the thief, both Tom and Harry would be telling the truth. If Harry was the criminal, none of the statements would be true. And if Mike was the thief, none of the statements would be true either. Your friends complain that every day they have an egg spinning competition with only raw eggs, and every day one particular boy wins. Your friends ask you to find out how he manages to do it. You start observing the boy spinning an egg when suddenly it drops to the floor. The boy goes and takes a broom to clean it up, as if it happens every day. You immediately understand why the boy always wins the daily competition. What's his secret? The boy took a broom, so the egg he had been spinning must have been hard-boiled. If the egg had been raw, he would have taken a mop. A man was discovered unconscious at his desk, alone in the locked office. He was rushed to a hospital and the police started investigating this case. The only clue was a sealed envelope on the man's desk. Have you figured out what happened? The envelope glue contained poison, and when the man licked the envelope to seal it, he got poisoned. A renowned chemist disappeared right from his lab. There was no evidence except a piece of paper lying on his desk. The names of 5 elements were scrawled across it hastily: nickel, carbon, oxygen, lanthanum, and sulfur. The guards reported that 3 people had visited the chemist that day: his sister Laura, his colleague Nicholas, and his wife Tessa. The criminal was arrested immediately. Who was it? The list of chemicals is a clue. Their abbreviations spell out the name Nicholas. Look at these ladies attentively. Can you figure out who's not pregnant? It's the one wearing a green dress. This person has big feet and is wearing a wig. It's actually a man trying to steal a watermelon. That's why he dressed up as a pregnant woman. Each of these 3 women claims she is this boy's mother. But who is the real mom? The real mother is wearing clothes in the same colors as her son's outfit. What a cute family look! Plus, the boy is facing her. Someone stole the principal's money. When the police came to investigate, they questioned the most likely suspects. The PE teacher said he'd had a break. The history teacher was having a lesson, and the music teacher said that she felt unwell and had gone home early. Can you figure out who the thief is? The music teacher is the thief.
No.
Look, she has gloves in her bag, although it's summer. Suspicious. Look at these 3 men and a girl. The first man says, "I got so scared, I called the school, but they didn't know where my daughter was." The second man says,
We were walking the dog in the park. I turned my back just for a minute and she was gone.
and the third man says,
I have no idea why she ran away. Here, I bought you a new phone.
which man is the real father? The second man is the father. The girl is too young to attend school or have a phone of her own. Someone stole important documents from a businessman's office when the power went out. When the man discovered this unpleasant news, he called his friend, a private detective. The detective arrived and questioned everyone who had been in the office during the crime. The first person said, I left the office to get some coffee and donuts. The second employee claimed that it had been dark and she'd taken a nap. And the third worker said, I went to the kitchen to get a latte from our new coffee machine. Who's the thief? The third person's a liar. He wouldn't have been able to use a coffee machine without electricity. The man had lost his memory, and while each of these 3 women claim she's his wife, he can't figure out who's telling the truth. Can you help him? The man and his real wife have matching rings. Look at these 3 bridesmaids. One of them is up to no good. She has spoiled the bride's dress. Can you figure out which one it was? The bridesmaid who had ripped the dress must be left-handed because all the rips were made with a left hand. Pay attention to their placement and direction. And this is the only left-handed maid. She's writing down some notes using her left hand. At 9 a.m., Ethan got a call from his friend, an owner of a large business. The man said that a very important document had disappeared from his office. It had been on his desk the evening before, but now it was nowhere to be found. Ethan immediately came there to question his friend's employees. Soon he had 3 suspects. Walter said he had spent the previous evening at the movies. Joan had dinner with her friends, and Zachary visited an art gallery. It didn't take Ethan long to understand who is lying. Have you figured it out too? It was Walter. His ticket isn't torn. It means he didn't enter the movie theater. Olivia called the police. She told them someone had broken into her house, tied her up, and taken all her money and valuables. When the officers arrived, the entrance door was open. And Olivia was indeed tied to a chair, and still, the detectives didn't believe her story. Why? If the girl was tied, how did she manage to call the police? You take it and throw away its outside. Then you cook the inside. Then you eat the outside and throw away the inside. What is it? You've just eaten a corn cob. Kai wakes up on a cruise ship. He's in a cabin in total darkness. He has only one matchstick. What should he light first? A newspaper, a candle, or a lamp? Kai should light the matchstick first. Kai leaves the cabin and walks down the hallway. To reach the deck, he needs to enter one of these 3 doors, but each passage has an obstacle. A huge venomous snake is crawling behind the first door. There's a kraken with creepy tentacles waiting behind the second door. And there's a hungry megalodon with sharp teeth behind the third door. What should Kai choose? Kai should pick the third door. Megalodon can't survive without water, so it's not dangerous anymore. Kai goes out on the open deck. He spots 4 weird details right away. Can you see them too? There's Saturn in the sky instead of the sun. This table doesn't have any legs. There's a hula hoop hanging on the deck instead of a life buoy. And this passenger's shadow doesn't match the reality. Kai is starving. He enters the ship's dining hall. Unfortunately, he missed dinner hours. The waiter says that they have only 3 meals left, but only one of them is safe to eat. Can you guess which one? Let's take a look at this pizza. Can you see these metal nuts among the topping ingredients? It's definitely not safe. As for this pudding, there's a spider stuck in it, so Kai should probably choose the sandwich. Kai looks around and sees 3 security guards having lunch, but one of them is actually a thief. Can you spot this person? It's the lady in the middle. Take a closer look at her hat. There's a fake logo on it. The star doesn't match the logo that the other 2 ladies are wearing. Also, she's wearing a fake uniform. Her clothes are underneath. Kai decides to follow the fake security guard. She enters the storage room and puts something inside a safe. Kai wants to find out what she's hiding there, so he waits until she leaves and tries to open the safe, but it's locked. So he needs to enter a 4-digit code. There's a clue in this room. Can you help Kai crack the code? Let's take a look at these 4 suitcases. The number of stripes on them implies the digits in the code, so the password is 3514. Kai opens the safe and finds 2 similar gemstones inside it. One of them is a real diamond, and another is a fake copy made from quartz. How can Kai quickly find out which diamond is real without using any special equipment? He should drop both gemstones into the water. Quartz will float and sink slower because it's less dense than the real diamond. Kai tells the ship's security guards about the thief and goes to his cabin. Suddenly, he sees his neighbor Molly in the corridor. She's very upset.
What happened?
Someone robbed my cabin while I was hanging out by the pool. They took all my jewelry.
Kai explores the space and says,
The thief must be your enemy. It's not a regular robbery.
how did he know? Take a closer look at the mess. The thief opened the lipsticks and smeared them on the floor on purpose. Also, all the shampoo bottles are spilled, and Molly's dresses are torn. Why would an ordinary thief waste time on these things? Therefore, the criminal had an intention to cause as much damage as possible. Kai checks the cabin with a special ultraviolet flashlight. Can you help him spot 3 clues? Here they are. Kai goes for a walk around the deck trying to find further clues. Can you spot a superhero around the passengers? Over here. Kai returns to his cabin. Can you find 3 emojis in this room? Ready to see the answer? Here they are. Kai can't find the key to his suitcase. Can you find it in this variety? It's over here. Kai goes to the local smoothie cafe to get some fresh juice. Can you spot 1 extra emoji on this image board? This cactus is the only inedible emoji here. Kai returns to his cabin and sees that someone drew a threat on his door. Kai looks around the hallway and finds 3 suspects. He questions them right away.
What were you doing within the last 15 minutes?
Sheila says, I was just taking selfies on the deck for my social media. And then I went to my cabin to put on another outfit. You can see it for yourself if you don't believe me. Lily says, I got sunburned in the morning, so I was just laying in my bed, eating and watching my favorite show. And Jean says,
I've just finished my workout in the gym, and I'd like to have a shower if you don't mind.
Who's lying? Sheila, take a look at the dress in her selfies. It's the same outfit that she's wearing now. Therefore, her story is fake. The ship's security guards interrogate Sheila and check her bags. Can you see anything suspicious in her luggage? This shoe is clearly larger than all the others, and it doesn't have a pair, so she's probably hiding something inside it. The next morning, Kai wakes up very early and goes to the pool. It's almost empty. There's only one beautiful lady chilling on a sun lounger. Kai approaches her to introduce himself, but suddenly he changes his mind. Why? There are 2 inflatable flamingos in the pool and also 2 cocktails, one in the lady's hand and another one probably belongs to her spouse because she has a tan line on her ring finger. Kai decides to go to the dining area to have breakfast. Can you spot anything odd? What's wrong with this lamp? After breakfast, Kai goes to explore the ship and gets lost in its corridors. Can you figure out which path will lead him to the center? Only path C will actually lead Kai to the center. Kai enters the exit door, but there's another trap. The door slams shut behind him. He needs to enter a 4-digit code to open the combination lock and escape. Luckily, he finds a note with a hint. Can you figure out the code? To solve this mystery, we need to count the number of identical figures in this picture, and the code is 2463. Kai returns to his cabin after 3 hours of absence. Wow, there's a huge gift box on his bed. The card says it's from a secret admirer. Only 3 staff members had access to his cabin today. Kai questions them all. The repairman says,
I entered your cabin 30 minutes ago to fix the sink. It's okay now. But anyways, I'm too broke to bring gifts to the passengers.
The cleaning lady says,
I entered your room about an hour ago to change the bed sheets and take out the trash, but I didn't see any gifts.
And the manager says,
I have a master key, but it's always in my pocket.
Nobody warned me about any gift deliveries. Who's lying? The cleaning lady said she had taken out the trash, but the trash bin in Kai's cabin is full. And there are many flies around it, which probably means that it's not very fresh. So her story must be fake. Now, he's trapped on a deserted island. He only has a mirror and a piece of wood. What should he do to survive? Kai can use the mirror to reflect sunlight onto the wood, creating a signal fire so that the rescuers could find him. A villain lured Detective Johnson into a trap. He told the detective that if he wanted to survive, he needed to crack a riddle. Then he put a jug of juice and an empty glass in front of him. There was nothing else on the table. Johnson needed to fill the glass to the brim, but after that, the jug had to contain the same amount of juice as it did at the beginning. Can you help the detective figure out how to do it? It's very simple. The detective should pour the drink into the glass and then place it inside the jug. An elderly lady was walking in the park when a stranger grabbed her bag and hurried away. The woman told the police the man was wearing a coat, a hat, and glasses. He also had a mustache. The police officers ran in the direction the lady showed them. Some distance away, they found the hat, coat, and glasses lying on the ground. They realized that the criminal could be hiding in the nearby cafe. Look at these 4 men. All of them are cafe visitors. You need to understand who took the bag from the elderly woman. It can't be the man in a hat or the one wearing a coat. The criminal also got rid of his glasses, so it can't be the man in the corner. It means that the man wanted by the police is the one on the right. He has a small wound on his upper lip. He must have gotten rid of his fake mustache in a hurry. Builders were mixing sand, gravel, and cement for the foundation of a house. Suddenly, one of the workers noticed a small bird hopping along the top of the foundation wall. At one point, the bird misjudged the distance and fell down one of the holes between the blocks. No one could reach it since the bird was too far down. The hole was also too small for it to fly out of. Someone suggested using 2 sticks to try to pull the bird out, but this idea was rejected because it could easily injure the fragile bird. What would be the easiest way to get the bird out of the hole without hurting it? Since the workers have plenty of sand at hand, they can pour a little at a time into the hole. The bird would constantly keep shifting its position and get closer to the surface along with the rising sand. Now this riddle will require some thinking and analytical skills. You might even need to get a pen and a slip of paper. Listen attentively. 2 criminals were caught stealing. Detective Brightbrain suspects that the criminals are in cahoots. But this is just speculation, and there's no proof. The detective offers each of the criminals a deal to rat on his comrade and get freedom for this. But the other criminal will be sentenced to 10 years in prison. If the criminal refuses to testify, he'll spend 6 months in prison for refusing to cooperate with the investigation. If both testify against each other, both will receive 2 years in prison. The criminals are isolated from each other and cannot communicate. It's in everyone's interest to reduce the time spent behind bars as much as possible. What decision should each criminal make? Make a deal with the investigation or remain silent? Since they can't communicate with each other, the criminals have 4 possibilities. A is silent and B is silent. Equals each gets 6 months in prison. A is silent and B testifies. B is released and A is sentenced to 10 years. A testifies and B is silent equals A is released and B is sentenced to 10 years. A testifies and B testifies equals both get imprisoned for 2 years. If the suspects are not allowed to communicate, then they do not know what the other will choose. In this situation, if A remains silent, then, depending on B's decision, he will be sentenced to 10 years or 6 months. If A testifies against B, A will receive 2 years in prison or will be released. So it will be more profitable for each of the suspects to testify against each other so as not to be sentenced to 10 years. But if A and B had the opportunity to communicate, then of course, the best solution for each of them would be to refuse to make a deal with the investigation and get only 6 months in prison. On the first day of school, someone pierced the wheels of the principal's car. When a detective arrived, she immediately suspected that the culprit was not one of the students, but an adult, since all the children were in the classroom. So, she questioned 4 teachers, asking each of them what they had been doing at 8 a.m. Mr. Walter said that he'd been on his way to school, running late. Mrs. Thomas answered that she had been checking her students' exam papers. Mr. Benjamin said that he'd been reading a newspaper. And Mrs. Calvin explained that she had been in her office with her husband, who had come to visit her. The detective immediately realized who had punctured the tires on the principal's car. Who was it? It was Mrs. Thomas.
Oh, no.
She couldn't be checking exam papers on the first day of school. Mary Levis was a famous detective. Once, she was gathering all available information on a tricky case. A well-known banker disappeared from his office. The detective had 5 suspects: Alice, Jack, Stephen, Nicholas, and Maria. The thing is, on the banker's table, Mary found a diary with several entries. The latest entry said, "At 10 o'clock, I have a meeting with Maria. The next day, at 1 o'clock, I have to meet with Nicholas. And on June 3rd, I have an $11 million deal with Stefan. It's important not to mix it up." After carefully examining the evidence, the detective realized who was behind the banker's disappearance. Who was it? It was Jack. All the numbers in the last entry, 10, 1, 3, and 11, are the order of the letters in the alphabet. By matching the numbers with letters, you can get the name. There was a theft in a multi-story building. The victim was sure she would receive a large payment from the insurance company. As for the robber, she claimed he had jumped out of the window and disappeared. The detective went to the first floor, opened a closed window, and threw a coin out of it. Then he went up to the second floor and did the same. He continued to climb floor after floor, opening windows and throwing coins, until he reached the last one. Then he returned and said that the victim was lying. How did he understand it? The detective had to open every window on every floor. If the robber had jumped out on his own, he wouldn't have been able to close the window behind him. He had an accomplice, and most likely, it was the victim who wanted a payout from the insurance company. Jake and his friend Jonathan likes challenging each other. One would suggest something they could do, and the other would prove it wrong somehow. One day, Jake surprised Jonathan by stating,
I can answer any question in the world.
Jonathan was sure that he could win the challenge, so he accepted the task of proving it wrong. He wrote up a test full of super hard questions. After a while, Jake returned the test. Jonathan lost the challenge. He had to admit that Jake could indeed answer any question. How did Jake win? He indeed answered all the questions by writing, I don't know. Two workmen were repairing a roof. Suddenly, they both fell down the chimney and found themselves in a large fireplace. One man's face was smeared with soot, but the face of the other was clean. The second man washed his face, but the worker whose face was dirty didn't, and just went back to work. Why? When the two men looked at each other, the one with the clean face thought his face was dirty as well. The other man, though, looked at his companion and thought that his face was clean.